Click the go live button. Now I think we're live. And we're live! Yay! How's it going, YouTube land? How you doing out there? I hope you're doing all right. I'm doing pretty well. This wonderful morning, pardon me, June 16th, 2020. I have in front of me today a wonderful pile of toaster strudels. I can't even remember, are they Pillsbury brand? I think they're Pillsbury brand, something like that. Toaster strudels. I was trying to be delicate with opening up these icing packets, but a couple of them tore. So, yeah. Having some nice breakfast for lunch today. Now, I know that these are kind of similar to Pop-Tarts, which I absolutely loathe, but thankfully these are certainly way different. First of all, you bake them in an oven. They're a nice flaky pastry, like a puff pastry, with some nice filling on top, or with some nice filling inside of it, I should say. And they come with these nice little icing packets, so you can ice them whenever you want to eat them. So I think they're 100% better than Pop-Tarts, in my opinion. Even if they are a little bit more fussy, a little bit more finicky to actually prepare. So I'm going to enjoy myself a little bit of lunch. I hope that you're enjoying yourself some lunch, or maybe some dinner, some breakfast, whatever time it is that you're tuning in, wherever you're tuning in, I should say. You know, take a minute to grab yourself a bite to eat, something to enjoy, something like that. I have been really excited to see that, you know, things are starting to open up a little bit more around my area, at least around the Seattle area. So it's great to see that there's a lot more businesses open. There's a lot more restaurants that are starting to serve food again. You can even dine in some places, which is really great. You know, even the other day, I went out and went for a long run with a couple of my friends. So it's cool that, you know, things are starting to open up a little bit. Again, even though it doesn't seem like the rate at which the COVID-19 virus is spreading has reduced much at all. In fact, I think there's been a little bit of an uptick since the Memorial Day weekend, and especially since there have been the protests going on, things along those lines. Fabian, thank you for joining the stream, man. Says, hey Steve, do you know what exercise burns the most fat? Is it bicycling or jogging? I don't know. I have a feeling it's the exercise that you actually feel like doing. How about that? I couldn't say. I mean, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I like running because I think there's a lower bar of entry. Like I can just throw on my shoes and get running. Of course, that is a bike behind me in the picture. You may or may not be able to see it. So of course I do both. I don't think that cycling or running is particularly, I don't think that one is particularly better than the other. I think it's just that some people like one more than the other. Besides, like, burning fat is a, like, it's a function of, sorry about that. It's a function of the, like, amount of effort that you're putting into whatever activity you're performing. So to say that one is going to burn more fat than the other, I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's going to be whichever one you're willing to push yourself further in. For me personally, like, I've found that I can get my heart rate up way more easily with a lot less perceived effort with running than with cycling. For some reason, for me, it's just cycling just hurts my legs. It just hurts so much. You know, I feel like it's closer to weight training than it is to cardio exercise. I'm gonna get some more of these strudels. Man, I love that the toaster strudels come in a nice variety of flavors. So today I picked up some raspberry toaster strudels and some strawberries and cream toaster strudels. I think these couple that are on top are the raspberry toaster strudels. Even though the picture in the thumbnail, I think, was just of the strawberry toaster strudels. See that? A nice berry filling. Ah, so good. But if you look closely, you can tell, it's pretty easy to tell that I kind of screwed up the thumbnail today. I had thrown out the boxes of these before I'd even thought to take a picture of the thumbnail. So yeah, I just I just grabbed another thumbnail off of the internet and just threw it next to a picture of my face, next to my beautiful, beautiful face, because I'm sure everybody who tunes in to see this beautiful mug. No, thank you guys for joining me today. Of course, it's always fun to talk with everyone. Fabian asking more about exercise, which is awesome, man. Yeah, I always love to talk about the kinds of exercise that I do. Do you eat a lot of carbs when you're doing exercise, or a lot of protein? Do I eat allet? I love that allet. Oh man, anybody who wants to see something kind of entertaining should check out the comic. I think it's by the Oatmeal about the allet. It's a silly little cartoon. But yeah, do I eat a lot of carbs or protein when I'm exercising? Yeah, I do eat a fair amount of carbohydrate when I'm exercising, when I'm doing like really long endurance exercises. But protein, no, I avoid protein when I'm exercising. That just makes it harder to exercise really effectively. It's good to have some of those carbs on board for when you're doing longer endurance exercises. But again, like usual, I don't think about it too much. You know, if I'm not hungry before a workout session, or if I'm gonna go lift weights, do something that's not so energy intensive, I just don't think about it too much. Yep. And as per usual, the thing about protein is people love to think that protein is awesome, protein is amazing, protein is a panacea, it will cure all that ails you, etc., etc. And the truth is that the importance of protein is super overblown. You do not need to have a ton of protein to exercise effectively, and you do not need to have a ton of protein to build muscle, etc., etc. You do need some protein, of course, just not quite as much as everybody, as some people would leave you to believe. I think that the protein industry is like, it's kind of a sham. Like, I think it's just people shelling, like, literally, they're shelling garbage. Like, the stuff, whey protein concentrate, whey protein isolate is runoff from the production of other milk products that people had no idea how to get rid of. So it used to be like pig feed and stuff like that. Until they realized that they could like market it and sell it for super high prices to bodybuilders and people who wanted to build big muscles back in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, it's a big sham. Like, don't worry about eating a ton of protein. Oh, Fabian, thank you for saying that I'm one of your favorite fitness YouTubers, although I don't think that I'm a fitness YouTuber by any stretch of the imagination. But thanks, man. I appreciate it. Zepiush, thank you for joining the stream. Says Steve eats a lot of Edwards pies and legendary donuts. Yeah, bro. Some of my favorite foods right there. Eric Gunnarsson, thank you for joining us today. Says once again, back on track with you all. Great to see you again. Speaking about bikes, I hope that you're wearing a hard hat when you ride it. Yeah, when I'm outside, I always wear a helmet when I'm riding outside, of course. Don't wear a helmet when I'm riding that bad boy right behind me, though. That's my dedicated indoor bike. I wouldn't trust that thing outdoors at all. It's all rusted up. It just stays with my bike trainer, and I ride my bike while I ride that guy while watching TV. Well, I am super sad that this year, and I always make jokes around this time of year that like a super special day is approaching, just an amazing event is just around the corner, you know, kind of hinting that my birthday is on June 30th, kind of like, oh, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then the punchline is that I'm always talking about the Tour de France, which always starts around the end of June. And I love just sitting on that bike right back there and love it. I love watching the Tour de France. Love seeing all the amazing athletes out there just pushing themselves to the absolute limit. And I got to thinking, like, I know that there's a stereotype that everybody has about cyclists, that they're super, super skinny. And some people even say that cycling kind of promotes this unhealthy, skinny body type. I know, for example, Eric Lampkin, Eric the Electric, used to be this really skinny little guy who was really big into cycling. He's another competitive eater, another YouTuber. I'm sure everybody who watches this channel probably knows who Eric the Electric is. And then a while back, he had this kind of like coming to Jesus moment, like a transformation. I think it was really a big transformation in his head more than anything else, where he stopped worrying about his weight so much and he became this like kind of big jacked guy. He's got a way different body than he used to have. So I know some people say that cyclists and cycling in general does kind of promote this excessively skinny, excessively lean body type. And I thought it'd be cool to, talk about a little bit about that, to kind of bust that myth. Like, it's definitely not true. Definitely not by any stretch of the imagination. One of the most well-known professional cyclists in America was Lance Armstrong back in the 90s. And he's a little under 6 feet, I believe. I think it's like 5'10", probably somewhere around there. And like 160 pounds-ish. Probably between like 155 and 165. Which, is thin, but it's not like super emaciated. Like, it's not super, super tiny. And I do want to say that there are some really tiny cyclists out there, because even in something like the Tour de France, there are several different types of cyclists, and each type of cyclist has a different body type. Lance Armstrong was mostly like a time trialist, and I think time trialists, when I say time trialists, those are the guys who ride alone. They just ride for a significant distance, not like forever and ever and ever. Maybe like 25 miles, something like that. So if you're riding for like an hour, they'll do these solo rides, these solo competitions where every single time trialist just rides the same distance without interfering with each other. So it's like there's not a whole lot of tactics, not a whole lot of tactical stuff happening in those kinds of rides. It's just predetermined, push yourself to your physical limit for as long as possible. It's very similar to triathlon. A triathlon ride where actually riding too close to each other is against the rules in a lot of triathlons. And likewise in time trials, riding too close to each other to take advantage of the drafting effects is against the rules. So that's the kind of riding that Lance Armstrong was specialized in. And it really did promote like a pretty well-rounded athlete, Now, on the like smaller end of the spectrum of cyclists were these guys who were mountain climbers, and these typically are the guys who will win the Tour de France because the Tour de France is really known for having lots of mountains, lots of hill climbs, stuff like that. So I think the most popular guy in recent years is this guy Chris Froome, who, if you look at pictures of him, he is just super tiny, super skinny. Yeah, look at this guy. Just incredibly skinny. He is definitely and he won the Tour de France, I think 4 times in the last couple of years, 4 or 5 times. Oh my goodness, what is going on in this picture? This is ridiculous. So here's Chris Froome, certainly an aggressively lean and skinny cyclist. And of course, having this really high power to weight ratio. That's not a very good picture. Let's see if I can get a bigger picture. Nope, can't. Anyway, so there's Chris Froome. He's a mountain climber. Mountain climbers, when you're going up hills, obviously being lighter is better. It'll make things a little bit easier. So it does promote having this really, really small body frame. Another guy, ex-professional cyclist, I talk about him every now and then, is Phil Gaiman. Super, super skinny guy. He's got this really, really small body type. And he's just this skinny, goofy guy who, for some reason, is known for really liking cookies. So you'll see him wearing, let's see, like it looks like he's wearing a cookie jersey in this picture. Which, probably makes him about the same as any other person on Earth. I don't know anybody that really dislikes cookies. So again, Phil Gaiman, he's an ex-professional cyclist, very funny guy. You can see him on YouTube. Promotes charities like No Kid Hungry. Really cool guy. Funny content. I really like him, and he kind of makes fun of professional cycling and the whole cycling community nowadays. Um, but like I said, he's a mountain climber. He's known for climbing hills really, really well. He recently set the Everesting record, which is climbing the equivalent of the height of Mount Everest in a single day. So that would be like, for him, he was going up and down the same hill. I think it was 60 times or something like that, to get the equivalent elevation gain of going up 29 feet. Crazy, crazy stuff. So these are the kind of guys who, like, when people think of cyclists and think of that, like, super skinny body image, these are the kind of guys that people usually think of. And yeah, I think Chris Froome, this guy, I believe he's like 120 pounds or something like that. He is super, super shrimpy. Compared to me, like I said, I'm about 5'9", 150 pounds thereabouts. So I've got about the same body type as Lance Armstrong. And if you look up any other time trial, it's pretty similar to that too. For female cyclists, the only professional female cyclist that like comes to mind is Kristen Armstrong, who is in fact unrelated to Lance Armstrong, just happens to have the same name. And I think that female cyclists in general tend to be a little bit curvier. Let's see if I can get a good picture of her. Like, yeah, you can see she's got some pretty good quads in that picture. I like that. Big quads, good legs. Let's see if there are any other pictures where I can see kind of a more full body picture of her. But like, female cyclists tend to look like more normal women. Like, again, pretty fit, pretty thin, but not like excessively thin. Yeah, you can see she's got some hips, so she's not super, super skinny. There are some sports where women can just get really, really skinny. I think it's more common for female runners to get really skinny. Again, female triathletes, that's another sport where you can see a lot of women get really lean, like to an unhealthy extent. But in cycling, women tend to be have a little bit more of a normal body type. Now, if you move down the spectrum, like I said, time trialists tend to be like, yeah, they tend to be pretty skinny, but not super, super skinny. But if you go along the spectrum, there's also this class of cyclists that are known as sprinters, who are the guys who will like ride with the group in the Tour de France, and then right at the end, like right at the finish line, they'll just like ride around the group and try to sprint to the end for the last, quarter mile or something like that. And these guys actually tend to be pretty big. So this is Marcel Kittel. I believe he's a German cyclist. And he's a giant. Like this guy, he's 6'2" or something. I wish I had these stats off the top of my head. I think he's like 85 or 90 kilograms. Like he's a pretty big guy. You can see he's pretty well built in some of these pictures. He does not look like Chris Froome. Tiny, twiggy little Chris Froome. I'm gonna constantly refer back to that guy because he is just so tiny. Oh, hey, look at that. Marcel Kittel showing off his amazing bod. So again, like skinny guy, a lean guy, definitely. Well, not super skinny. I'd say he's pretty well built. Another example of this is Peter Sagan, one of the most well-known sprinters in cycling, and he's kind of a pretty boy. Like, I think that for the last couple of years, he really likes to look at himself. So I'm surprised that there aren't any shirtless pictures of Peter Sagan here. But yeah, like you see, he's again, he's not a huge guy, but yeah, he's not skinny. He's not super lean or anything like that. And he's got about the same body, like the same body stats as Marcel Kittel. Like he's maybe around 6 feet tall, maybe around 85, 90 kilograms. Maybe not 90 kilograms, maybe like 85. 80 to 85 kilos, somewhere around there. It's always fun to watch races with people like Peter Sagan and Marcel Kittel in them. It's like coming to the finish line or the sprint points in some of those Tour de France races, like it becomes a bedlam. It becomes chaos. Oh my goodness. Now, if you want to go to like the far end of the spectrum, there are track cyclists. And these guys are absolute giants. Now, these are the guys who are they look like power lifters. So there's this guy, Robert Frostman, who's probably, now this guy is super short. He's a track cyclist. I think he's like 5'4" or 5'5". So he's probably got the most absurd body type of most cyclists. But these are the guys who can push just gigantic amounts of power. This guy on the left here is Robert Frostman. So these are the guys who can go from like 0 to 40 miles an hour on a single speed bike just instantly. Oh my goodness. So these guys are definitely breaking that stereotype of cyclists being super skinny. Oh my god, yeah, this guy's just a monster. So there's this really famous, I shouldn't say famous, kind of this infamous video of him. It's called the Cyclist versus Toaster. I'm not going to show the whole video, but it's basically about how well this track cyclist with, again, these gigantic inhuman legs, like, can he generate enough power to toast a piece of bread, basically through his physical power. Like, you can turn a bike into a power generator. So the idea is trying to give constant power to this toaster to try to toast a piece of bread. If you guys want to see just a ridiculous video of somebody doing that, you got to check that out. Cyclist versus Toaster. I'm not going to show the whole video here, but yeah, it's an entertaining few minutes, and it definitely does like give you a little bit of appreciation for just how much power it takes to turn on just some basic appliances in your house. Yeah, because every now and then I hear people talk about how, gyms should hook up power generators to their stationary bikes and how they could power their entire gym just off of that right there. And it's total bupkis. Like, it's ridiculous. Let's see, the best... So one of the most popular records in cycling, I think I've talked about this before actually, is the 1 hour record, where you get on a bike by yourself. It's a time trial style thing. And you ride on a track, see how many laps you can do in 1 hour. And I think the current world record is something just under 60 kilometers or something like that. And the best cyclist in the world can maintain a power that's about 400 watts. Now me, I'm a pretty fit guy. I can maintain about 200 watts. And that's like pretty good for an amateur athlete. Professional athlete are these guys who will maintain 400 watts for an entire hour, and then they'll just like fall off their bike and be unable to walk or ride a bike for like days afterwards because they're completely spent. But if you get somebody like me riding 200 watts in an hour, and after an hour of that, like, I'm really spent. I can't do a whole lot. So if I was able to do that, if I was able to transfer 100% of my kinetic energy that I was generating from riding a bike into electrical energy, you would see that the amount of power of, oh gosh, what would it be? Coulombs, I guess, would be the electrical unit of energy, whatever, that you would charge up a battery with. It comes out to like 2 or 3 cents worth of energy. Like, it's nothing. It is completely negligible. So yeah, trying to power something off of a bicycle is way more difficult than I think a lot of people think it is. All right, let's look at a couple of charities. Why not? I gotta give $50 away today. I want to anyway. So, I mentioned Phil Gaiman as, remember, super skinny guy who loves cookies. he wrote some excellent books, and he has an excellent YouTube channel, so you guys should definitely check it out. But he's a big advocate for No Kid Hungry. So this is a charity, of course, who provides, basically, who makes sure that there's food security for young people in America. And it is kind of, it is really unfortunate, I should say. It is very unfortunate that we live in America, I live in America anyway, which is supposed to be like, you know, quote unquote, the best, the most advanced, the most civilized, et cetera, country in the world. You know, like, it's supposed to be this paragon for everything that's amazing in the world. And there are people in America who are not able to get enough food to prevent, you know, being hungry. And it does affect, especially young children, it really stunts their growth. It affects their ability to concentrate and learn in schools. So I think it's a wonderful charity. I think it's something that these guys do a lot of great stuff. They make sure that people are able to get meals before school. They make sure that, I know a lot of kids rely on school. A lot of families who are poor rely on school to provide meals for their kids. So in a time like this, when the schools are shut down because of COVID-19, then, you know, a lot of kids are just not able to have access to that kind of food that they would have on a regular basis. And it is a problem every year during the summer when schools are, you know, basically closed for 3 months. So yeah, they do a ton of really cool stuff. Now there's this other, charity, this other nonprofit that is supported by Major League Eating, in fact. So I thought that this would be a cool one to look at. I'll have to look into these guys some other time, though. I only found out about Feeding America today. But today, I'm going to see if I can donate $50 to No Kid Hungry. Because like I said, I think that it is it's a wonderful charity. Since I do pay attention to the stuff that Phil Gaiman is doing, it's something that, you know, I see more and more frequently than I see some other charities. It is great when you see people who are a little bit more in the public eye, like promoting these kinds of charities, because it does, like, bring it to the forefront. So you actually know that these things exist and that there are ways to prevent some horrible, some really unfortunate circumstances for some folks. All right, just click the donate button. So let's see. Loading. There we go. Here we go. $50 to No Kid Hungry. Whee! You're helping end childhood hunger in America. Yay! So sorry, it's not a global charity today, but I think that it is kind of an evergreen issue. It's something that you hear about more frequently than you really should, especially in a modernized Western country. Like, it is really unfortunate. There's such a disparity between the haves and the have-nots in places like Western Europe or North America, stuff like that, where honestly, like, we have the ability to fix these problems. It's just a task of taking care of the logistics to, getting the logistics in place to make sure that you're able to distribute resources to where they need to be. Oh my goodness. These strawberry and cream toaster strudels are incredible. They're so good. Not overly sweet, a little bit tart in the filling. And that nice, it's like a cream cheese filling. A little bit of cream cheese, like a stripe through the middle of there. Gives it a nice little richness. Very, very good. I gotta say, toaster strudels, 100 times better than Pop-Tarts. All right, guys, thank you so much for spending another lunchtime with me. Once again, if you've got any suggestions for different charities, different nonprofits that you think I should check out, drop them in the comments, drop them in the chat box, send me an email, whatever you feel is best for you. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. So peace out. You guys have a good one.